Would you like to make a zero fray, super easy but gorgeous Christmas wreath? That is exactly what we're doing today. We're using the bubble method and we're making a stunning blue, silver, and white Christmas wreath. Now my co-host today is Louie. Say hi to everyone. And we are ready to get started on our wreath. You guys, I tried to get this little kitten down, but he comes back, lays in the same spot, regardless of the bright lights that are shining on him. Nothing phases him. So let's go over the supplies for this wreath. We're starting off with 21-inch Deco mesh that's 10 yards in length. I'm going to be using this beautiful silver one for this wreath. If you do not have 21-inch roll of Deco mesh or don't like using it, I recommend using 2 rolls of 10-inch Deco mesh that's 10 yards in length, because if we put it together, it's pretty much the same thing, and we're going to open up the bubbles the same way on the 10-inch Deco mesh as we are on the 21, so why not? I highly recommend you look through your stash of the ribbon you have left over. We're making a poof bow. When it comes to the colors, I'm just pulling them out of the sign. I have 3 main ones: silver, blue, and white. And this one has a little bit of silver snowflakes on it. So I thought that would go really nicely with the sign. The sign I got on Temu. In the description box below, as always, I will list where I got everything. And I love this little 8-inch metal sign. How beautiful. To cover the back of the wreath, we are going to be using a steering wheel cover, a 14-inch metal wreath base that has 4 rows, some floral wire. Just grab one that matches your sign the best. And of course, we're going to need some pipe cleaners. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my pipe cleaners in half and cut them. And then I'm going to fold them in a little V. For this particular wreath, you're going to need 21 pipe cleaners. Cutting them in half will make them 42, because we're going to use 42 pieces to attach our Deco mesh. I'm going to try to at least move him over to the side. I'm so sorry, Rocky, but mama gotta work. Let's talk about our wreath base. Our wreath base is 14 inches, as I said, and it has 6 sections. In each section, we're going to put 6 pipe cleaners on the outside and 1 pipe cleaner on each intersection. That is because we are going to make 7 bubbles in total. When it comes to attaching our pipe cleaner, you can attach it on row 2, on row 3, on rows 2 and 3. My sign is only 8 inches, so I'm going to be using row 2. I'm going to first start on an intersection, 2 twists. When it comes to the tails, it really doesn't matter if you have them folded in or out, because we're just going to be looping the Deco mesh. Now that I have my first pipe cleaner, I'm going to be putting 6 on this inside part on row 2. As you're putting the pipe cleaners on, you might notice that they are easily movable, and you're thinking, you know, how am I going to space this evenly? I wouldn't even give it a second thought, my friends, because when you put all that Deco mesh in there, it's not going to have room to move back and forth, so it'll be just fine. Just worry about having 6 pipe cleaners on the inside and 1 on the intersection for a total of 42 attached pipe cleaners. First section is done. 1 on the intersection, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the inside. This is our first section. Now we're going to move on to the next one and repeat the process going all the way around. All the pipe cleaners are on, and we're ready to get started with attaching our Deco mesh. To make our bubbles, I like using this little cutting mat from the Dollar Tree. It goes up to 8 inches, and that is how big our bubbles are going to be. We're going to be making 8-inch bubbles going all the way around. So of course, first things first, let's collect the tail, going about 2 inches in, maybe 3. Let's bring it in. I'm going to make my first attachment on the intersection. Give it a good tight twist or 2. Then we're going to push our tail between rows 2 and 3. Just push it back. Flip the wreath upside down. If you wish, you can grab a zip tie at this point and attach the tail to a row you're not using, preferably. In this instance, I'm attaching to row 3. Nice and tight. Cut off the tail. Any extra tail sticking out, we're just going to cut that off. And now I'm ready to continue. My Deco mesh is being rolled onto the table so that when we make our bubbles, they're just going to naturally fall in place. Measuring off 8 inches, and I'm going to attach it to the next pipe cleaner. Here I try to twist the pipe cleaners as tight as possible, and I'm going to twist them up because we're not going to need this tail anymore. Twist around so that we can get it nice and secure. Bubble number 2. We are 2 bubbles in. It's that easy. Here's a quick tip. If you're going to use Deco mesh that is really foiled, it has a lot of foil in it, it's probably quite stunning. This is a great continuous method to use it on because you're not going to have to cut the Deco mesh. That means all of that gorgeousness of your Deco mesh is going to be zero fray, and it's going to stay on your wreath, which is what we want. In my case, I have just really thin silver threading, but that is one way to use up your stunning, highly foiled Deco mesh. I'm 6 bubbles in, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My 7th bubble is going to be attaching to the next section, so the pipe cleaner that's in the intersection, and then off I go, making bubble after bubble, going all the way around. This is going to be nice and full, and as you can see, we don't need to worry about our pipe cleaners moving. The section is nicely filled in, it's full, it's compact, but when you look at the pipe cleaners, they're pretty much spaced out evenly in the back. That's what I was talking about when I said you really don't need to worry about your pipe cleaners and for them to stay in place, because the Deco mesh itself, the bubbles, will kind of just space them out nicely. I'm halfway done with attaching my bubbles. This wreath is so super easy, and if you're a beginner, you might want to consider doing something like this because it's zero fray, so you don't have to worry about cutting the Deco mesh and all of that, and all you're doing is just making simple bubbles and going all the way around. That's it. I'm on my last bubble, so the first thing I want to do is measure off the 8 inches I'm going to need and leave off about a 3-inch tail. As you can see, my roll was almost used up. Let's get those 8 inches. Attach right where we started on top of that pipe cleaner. And now I'm going to push the tail between rows 1 and 2. From the back, I'm going to attach it on row 1. I don't think it's going to show. We have plenty of Deco mesh on both sides there. So let me get the zip tie in. A zip tie at the beginning and zip tie at the end. Now you can decide if you want to keep your wreath the way it is or you want it to look just a little bit softer, and the way we're going to do that is simply we're going to open up our bubbles. I like to grab the whole bubble, holding it in one hand with the other. I'm going to undo that bubble all the way out. Going to do that, of course, to all my bubbles. The bubbles are all done. Now it's time to prepare our bow. I'm going to be using a bow maker to make our bow. 2 dowels right in the center next to each other. And since our wreath is nice and silver, I'm going to start with the blue ribbon. When it comes to the tail, I'm not going to worry about how long to make it because I do want my bow to sway to one side and the other. While you would think this ribbon is double-sided, it is not. We have glitter on one side, on the other side it's matte, so we are going to twist every time we go through the dowels. 5.5-inch loops. Twist. We're going to make 4 loops to get us started. Loop number 4. And this tail I'm going to cut on the other side. Next, I'm going to take my 2.5-inch ribbon And we're going to continue making 5.5-inch loops. And I'm going to need 4 of them. I'm twisting in the middle on this ribbon also because all the glitter is on one side. Next, I'm going to use my silver one. And with this one, I'm only going to make 2 loops. This is definitely a one-sided ribbon. So I'm going to make 2. You know what? I decided to make 3 loops with the silver one. The silver one, I'm going to do 3 loops. Now I'm going to take this white one that I really need to use up. I'm going to go down to 5 inches for my loops. And it looks like we were able to get 3 out of this one also, which is fine. I'm going to finish up with 3 loops of the blue. And this time I'm going to go down to 4.5. And our last loop. To bring the bow together, I'm going to take a zip tie. And what I like to do is just lift it up just a little bit. And then make sure I get a few clicks before I take it out of my dowels. There we go. Here I'm going to go nice and tight in the center. To attach the bow, I'm going to put another pipe cleaner on it and just tie it off in the back. When attaching your bow to the wreath, one of the biggest things you want to keep in mind is not to sink it in between the bubbles. You want to keep it up a little bit. It'll hold, I promise. The bubbles themselves will hold. So I'm going to push it in just right there. I mean, really just a little bit. Let's attach it. Just going to do 2 twists just in case I sunk it in too much. Nope. I think it should be just fine. Because we have so much ribbon, the first thing you want to do is sort all of the tails, which tails you want on this side, on that side. Get them all out. Grab some scissors and start cutting. Whether you're going to do dovetails or an angle, that's up to you. I decided to cut everything on an angle like this. So on this side, everything's going to be cut top to bottom. And on this side, top to bottom towards this way. That's why I arranged the tails before I start cutting and before I even take care of the bow. Always keep them long. We can always make them shorter later. And then this side, cut this way. Before we continue with the bow, let's attach the sign. Bring it in. See how I want to position it. Oh my goodness, this is so lovely. I think I like that. Let's bring in the floral wire. The wire in. Twist it in the back. I usually cut my wire into 12-inch strips. This time I kept them longer and doubled them just to make sure I have enough, but 12-inch strips is more than enough. Okay, I think that's a good spot. The sign is attached, so I'm going to take care of the floral wire from the sign and just lock it in, wrap it around one of the rings on the wreath form. Same thing on this side. When it comes to the bow and the loops, what I say is keep on going, and the more you play with it, the better it looks. At this point, your wreath could be all done. You have the bow, you have the sign, but I felt like it needed something else. So I went through my stash and look what I found. This is a Dollar Tree pick, and I'm going to integrate it behind the bow. One going from the top, one going from the bottom. 2 pipe cleaners to attach. Going to start by attaching the main branch, wrapping it around the bottom. Then I'm going to round off my pick so it kind of flows underneath, because we really want to make sure we hide that main branch, and then our ribbon can get integrated in between or behind. Look at that. Now I'm happy. I'm going to take the other branch and of course bend it towards the other way and attach it underneath this side. What a difference those 2 picks made, right, my friends? And of course, you can use just berries. You can use anything you have on hand. Now I'm going to find the top of my wreath, which is right here, and make a little hanging loop with some jute cord. Give it a few twists. Move the knot to the inside, and I do have a hanging loop right there. Now I'm going to take my steering wheel cover, and the first thing you want to do is stretch it, and stretch it really, really well. Give it a few good tugs. After you've done that, the best way I find to put it on is either to get some help, or I'll just loop it and hold it with one hand while the other hand is just giving it a nice stretch pull, and we're wrapping it around just like this. At this point, I think I can do it with two hands. Let's find our hanging loop and pull that out. The back is beautifully covered. Flip this over. Now we're going to do final touches. If we want to cut the ribbon tails maybe shorter here or there, now is a great time to do it. This particular pick is really sturdy, but sometimes when it's not, I like to go towards the top on this main branch, grab some floral wire and attach it right here also. That will give you a nice and secure connection. This pick seems to be on really, really nicely. And now I'm just going to play with the ribbon here and there, and we should be all done. I hope you enjoyed this wreath tutorial. I love using the bubble method and the fact that it's absolutely zero fray. And don't forget to say hello in the comments below. I love chatting with you guys. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a beautiful and blessed day. Say bye to everyone, Louis. Mwah! He's such a good boy. Bye, guys.